He once stood on stage before thousands of adoring fans, the charismatic frontman of a multi-million selling rock band. But Ian Watkins' new reality is a cell in one of Britain's most notorious prisons. This isn't a story about rock and roll glory. It's about a sickening fall from grace and the brutal, violent consequences that followed him behind bars, culminating in an attack that very nearly cost him his life. For a time, the Welsh band Lostprophets was a monumental force in rock music. They exploded onto the international scene in the early 2000s, building a legion of devoted fans and selling millions of albums. Their third album, Liberation Transmission, even shot to #1 on the UK charts. At the center of it all was their lead singer, Ian Watkins. With a magnetic stage presence, he was an icon for a generation of rock fans. But behind the screaming crowds and gold records, a horrific secret was festering. In 2012, the world Watkins had built came crashing down in the most sickening way imaginable. He was arrested, and the investigation unearthed a pattern of depravity that shocked the world. In December 2013, Watkins pleaded guilty to a string of heinous child sex offenses, including the attempted rape of a fan's baby. The sentencing judge said the case had plunged into new depths of depravity. Watkins was handed a 29-year prison sentence with an additional 6 years on license. Horrified and disgusted, his bandmates announced they could no longer continue. For the fans who had once sung his lyrics back at him, it was a staggering betrayal. The name Ian Watkins was no longer synonymous with rock stardom, but with a monstrousness that was hard to comprehend. He was erased from the airwaves and cast into the penal system, destined to live out his days among the country's most dangerous criminals. Ian Watkins was sent to HMP Wakefield, a maximum security prison in West Yorkshire. It's a place that houses some of Britain's most infamous and violent offenders, earning it the grim nickname Monster Mansion. Inside any prison, there's a rigid and often brutal social hierarchy. And in that hierarchy, those convicted of crimes against children often find themselves at the absolute bottom, viewed with a unique level of contempt by other inmates. They are frequent targets for violence and intimidation. For a figure as high profile as Ian Watkins, this danger was magnified tenfold. His face was known, his crimes were public knowledge, and his past life of fame made him an immediate person of interest. He was a notorious figure trapped in an ecosystem where that notoriety could make him a constant target. The threat against him wasn't just speculation. It was a grim and predictable reality of his new life. Before we detail the events of the attack, it's clear this story touches on the complex and dangerous dynamics of prison life. If you believe these in-depth explorations are important, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Your support allows us to continue our work. Now let's return to the violent reality of HMP Wakefield. The simmering threat against Watkins finally exploded on the morning of August 5th, 2023. In a carefully planned attack, 3 inmates took Watkins hostage inside a cell. For 6 terrifying hours, they held him captive. During the ordeal, Watkins was beaten and stabbed. The situation grew so dangerous that specialist prison staff, known as tornado teams, were forced to intervene. As negotiations failed and it became clear Watkins' life was at serious risk, they stormed the cell using stun grenades to end the siege. Watkins was rushed to a nearby hospital with stab wounds. Initial reports were dire, but it was later confirmed that his injuries were not life-threatening. However, in a letter sent from prison afterward, Watkins claimed he suffered from bleeds on his brain and permanent nerve damage to his spine as a result of the attack. The attack on Watkins wasn't just a random act of violence, it was a symptom of a larger issue. The incident highlighted the immense challenge of managing high-profile, high-risk offenders like Watkins, who are known targets. A former prison governor noted that Watkins was a notorious offender whose risk from others was well known. Just weeks after the hostage incident, a report from His Majesty's Chief Inspector for Prisons revealed a troubling increase in violence at HMP Wakefield. The report noted a 62% rise in violent incidents and a staggering 72% increase in serious assaults since its last inspection in 2022. It painted a picture of a system under immense pressure, where even in a top-rated, high-security facility, a carefully planned 6-hour hostage crisis could unfold. The attack on Ian Watkins served as a brutal confirmation of the dangers lurking within the prison walls, not just for him, but for anyone inside. The story of Ian Watkins is a modern tragedy, a celebrated rock star who fell into unimaginable depths of depravity, a reviled prisoner stripped of his fame and locked away, and finally the victim of a brutal act of violence carried out within the very system meant to contain him. His near-death inside HMP Wakefield ignites a fierce debate. Was this an inevitable case of prison justice, the grim consequence of placing a notorious child abuser among a population of violent men? Or was it a catastrophic failure of a system that has a fundamental duty to protect every inmate, regardless of the horror of their crimes? This case forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the nature of punishment, the culture inside our prisons, and where the line between justice and vengeance truly lies.